I'm Jon Altschuler.
I'm Scott Bennett. We've known each other for almost 50 years.
We grew up together on the playground.
And now we're in the foreground and still growing up.
From the playground to the foreground.
Join the conversation. I'm Scott Bennett, and he's Jon Altschuler, and we're back on the playground. Let's roll. Boy, do I have some things to talk about with you.
I bet you do.
Well, first of all, today is my oldest daughter's birthday, Sydney. So happy birthday, Sydney.
Happy birthday, Sydney.
Yeah, well, I'll let her know. I thought in honor of Sydney's birthday and our ISD and our youth, I want to tell a quick Sydney story very quickly, but sort of one of the things or a few things I miss, one was never being Mustang of the week at Bowie. I did later get somebody who controlled that sign to put my name up there. So I have that in my office. And the other is that I never did very well in the science fair. Is that surprising to you?
Well, we were competing with John Feigelman.
True. But I didn't ever get out. Like I never got a ribbon. My parents really didn't help me. So that didn't, I got the poster board, basically. That's about where I got started. I had to come up with the ideas. So when Sydney, I think, was in first grade, they allowed them to partner up. And I said, great, this is my time. And for both of my children, all the science fairs, I ignited the idea, gave them thought starters, helped them, guide them through the process. And in Sydney's first grade year, helped them. I was very interested in the ShamWow. Do you know that product? Used to absorb a lot. There was like an infomercial, like a fancy towel.
Hi, it's Vince with ShamWow. You'll be saying wow every time you use this towel. It's like a chamois, it's like a towel, it's like a sponge.
Okay. For like washing your car? Drying?
Yeah, they said it could absorb like massive amounts of water.
Right.
It was like a miracle towel. So I bought them off the infomercial. Was really obsessed with them for a while. Like I was using them for everything. And I decided that to give them, spark the idea of like what absorbs more man-made or human-made items centered around the ShamWow. And that idea got my daughter and her partner to the regionals. And there is a ribbon. I didn't bring the ribbon today, but I want to let you know that while I didn't do very well at Bowie, my daughter eventually did. And it was at my encouragement. So
congratulations.
And happy birthday, Sydney. Anyway,
I cannot stand the science fair.
Never?
I like events with scoreboards.
I know. Okay. Well, there is a winner. There are winners and ribbons.
Not winners, but you never know. Like, I don't know. I don't like it.
I understand.
But kudos.
Well, it's kind of funny, winners and losers. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is a concept called recognition, one that we all love, right? Yeah. And it's kind of an interesting topic recently. We talk about the trophy culture, right? Yeah. I think you and I probably discussed that. So I brought some show and tell today. This, for our viewers, looks like a wrestling belt. Oh, it's upside down, but a belt. I always wanted to have one of these. It was some recognition I received this week, and we won't get into really what that is, but I thought I was doing pretty good on a Monday to receive this. It was for performance. I'm pretty proud of myself to get that. And it's interesting because we moved all the trophies in my life from my childhood, including my kids' trophies, we got rid of. There's 0 trophies. And I thought, I didn't think trophies mattered. I don't know what you think about that first.
I think trophies are just a nice accolade. I think you have to be careful about being too fixated on receiving them or having received them in the past. But I think it's a good, like, attaboy.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. And when we were cleaning out to make the move, we got rid of the girls' trophies. And I was like, wait.
Yeah.
You know, all these trophies. I called them. I'm like, you don't want them. And so it's funny. And then I got this thing and it's sort of a trophy or a memento. I was recognized by my company for performance in the month of July, which is great. And good. Among a lot of people that vie for this. But less about this recognition of me. I believe yesterday was Thursday, and there was a lot of recognition for you. And I think I got to participate in a breakfast with a lot of your friends. And I think we finally admitted that we were friends. At least I admitted to an audience that I thought I was your friend.
You gave a great speech. Thank
you. And it was a really fitting tribute to you, Jon, in a room full of people for just... I was like trying to think of the things, explaining to somebody like all the things. Bruce Ware and I had breakfast this morning. He was there. I talked to somebody else last night. I was mentioning to Ron, it was just an incredible tribute to you.
Thank you.
And being your friend all these years, recognition is important. And I think I sent you a text last night. I wanted to try to say, just linger in it. I hope you will for a while. And you're not going to, I don't know what the memento will be to remember that day. Is there one for you?
A memento? Not really.
Oh,
Maybe
there
my
is.
Instagram post.
Yeah, no, there is a memento. All
Little
those
cards.
notes. Yeah, those cards. Did you read
nice.
them?
Not yet.
Okay. So those cards, I do not lose those. I wrote mine special. I can't wait till you get to it.
Brother.
But Jon, I got to tell you, I was really moved to watch how you were moved by the way that people responded, moved by your parents, your child that was in the room, your wife. I think everybody, what you have done. And I was going to talk about something else, which I'll say for later, but there's a poem called The Dash. Are you familiar with it?
I don't recall, but I remember I've heard it once.
I'm going to send it to you later, but it's about the dash between the years on a tombstone.
Yeah. You
are really living your dash. And I mean, you set a high bar for so many, and what a experience to be in the room yesterday. I have goosebumps thinking about it. So
it was fun. They did a great job. I was really just impressed with the execution and the idea. Appreciated the acknowledgement. And I think what's fascinating is if I would have had more time to really think about what was happening, we had a room of 70 people that have come together initially from racial reconciliation. And several of the speakers were saying things that I had done to help them. But in reality, all I had done to help them was introduce them at some point to other people in that room.
Yeah, it's sort of the disorganized organization of connection that you do.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. I try to do that. I think you know that.
Yeah.
And just really a fitting celebration. What a fun day. So
can I ask one clarifying question? Do you think I'm 1/8 Jewish or 1/4 Jewish?
Well, you said last week you were 1/4 Jewish. I corrected you at 1/8 because you had said it 1/8 before. So which is it?
Well, my dad's half Jewish.
Well, if your dad's half Jewish, I guess it means he would be 1/4, right?
You stand corrected.
Fair enough.
Couldn't believe you did that to me.
Well, you once told me 1/8. I didn't know which it was.
I don't think I ever told you 1/8.
I don't know.
I've always been 1/4.
Okay. Well, I'll talk to Stan about it and find out for sure. There's a way to know for sure. But whatever the case, we had some Yiddish.
Yeah,
you like that, didn't you?
That was really good.
Yeah, we had some Yiddish. But anyway, what a great tribute. And so happy that we got to do it.
It was fun. I really appreciated it. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm excited about our guest.
Our guest is great. Our guest is a good buddy of mine. I'm pretty sure he's in the racial reconciliation group that I mentioned, the Dupree group. 28-year-old glass chewer, former educator, current candidate for U.S. Congress. And we're going to try to have a discussion with him where we don't name political parties nor his opponent.
What's a glass chewer?
Sam Eppler.
Great. You can find us on social media at Playground Foreground.
Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel and subscribe. Sam Eppler, welcome to the Playground.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
So, Scott, I want to tell you how I know Sam. I know Sam through Peter Boysen. Peter Boysen is a boyhood classmate of ours. He was in junior high with us for at least 2 years at Westwood. He may have been at Bowie Elementary, but he, as a professional, he spent his entire, I went to SMU with him too, but he spent his entire career as an educator in DISD and now some other North Texas school districts teaching English. And about a year ago, Peter reached out to me and told me, hey, there's a principal who's running for Congress and you should try to get to know him. So I started to follow Sam on Twitter and started to give him some feedback. And somehow we engaged, and over the course of a year, become pretty good friends. So that's how I know Sam.
Awesome. Well, Sam, first of all, thank you for introducing. Looking forward to talking to you, but hopefully building a friendship and learning more, because I know this won't be enough time. There's too much to say probably, but I read a little before you got here, and I think I shared that I think what you're doing is, the word that came to mind was bold. So I want to just talk for a second about being bold. Like, do you think what you're doing is being bold, or do you just, how'd you come to do this? I mean,
yeah, running for Congress wasn't anything that I thought it would be. I think a lot of people think about running for Congress, and it's a lot of fundraising and spending time on the phone, and it's pretty lonely actually trying to be in public office. But I'm excited that I did it, and I'm really excited about the opportunity that we might have in November to make some real change and get stuff done. I always loved challenges. I think I got that from playing sports growing up. And I just kind of think of it as a big fun challenge. And it's been great so far. And I'm excited for the next, I think it's 80 days until the election.
Well, Sam, for those who don't know you yet, why don't you spend a minute, just get us up to speed on where you're from, what you've done, and
Yeah, thank you. And I think I first have to say thank you to Mr. Boyson. He was a teacher at Sunset High School that I got to come over to Molina High School. And it's funny how stuff leads to another. And then I met you. So I actually am not from Dallas. I grew up on the West Coast. My dad is from North Texas, and then he moved up to Oklahoma, grew up on a small farm, went to Oklahoma State, and then decided to join the Forest Service. And he moved to Oregon because they had a lot of forests there.
Right.
They still do. And he realized pretty quickly that he couldn't make a great living doing that. So he started working at a little computer company called IBM. I have 3 siblings. There's 4 of us. I grew up coming back to Dallas, Fort Worth pretty much every year because my grandma lives in Fort Worth. I went to college on the East Coast. I did a program called Teach for America after college, which places college grads in high needs school districts. I studied economics, so I think they thought that I took enough math to teach high school math. Didn't argue with them. And I taught high school math in Dallas ISD upon moving to Dallas in 2018. I taught 2.5 years at Pinkston High School in West Dallas. And then they asked me to be an assistant principal. And I moved a little bit down the street to a big school in Oak Cliff, where I was introduced to early college programs. And I was the leader of a PTech, which is an early college high school where students get their associate's degree in high school free at Dallas College. And I did that for a year and I loved it. And they asked me to be a principal of a standalone school. So I moved a little north to a new school DISD had started at North Lake, which is actually in Las Colinas, but it's a DISD school.
I know what that is.
We can get into the zoning of how that works, but it's the only school in Dallas ISD that's not in the Dallas ISD boundary zones. But we had students from all over DISD go out to North Lake, and I was fortunate and honored to graduate the first graduating class. 98% of our graduates earned an associate's degree in high school. And those are 60 college credits that they can take anywhere. They can transfer them to Texas A&M. They could just go into the workforce. And I had some kids that did that. I had a student that I'm thinking about that actually took his associate's degree, joined the Dallas police force and got a bonus because you get a bonus if you have an associate's degree.
Oh, man.
And I just thought, wow, this is amazing. This is innovative. This is what we should be doing. And I turned on the TV one day and I saw people that weren't talking about that, our elected leaders. They were talking about crazy extreme stuff on both sides, which I'm not a fan of. And I thought, instead of like defunding programs like the Department of Education, instead of, screaming and yelling, why don't we make them work better for people in our community? Why don't we try to retool our government to help the workforce, to help students in this generation achieve more and then ultimately give back? Why aren't we focused on economic mobility? And so that's what centered my campaign, and that's what I've been running on.
Wow.
That's cool.
I have a question.
What would your question be?
Well, you majored in economics. I got a D in economics, the only D I ever got in my life. So I thought that would make you laugh, number one. But now I've told you, but you'll still laugh again.
I think Scott got a D- in economics.
It was actually a D, John. At Texas, the only D I ever got. John would like to tell you I wasn't a good student, but I did.
Did you go to all the classes?
What?
Did you go to all the classes?
Yeah, it was macroeconomics at UT. A lot of people actually did not do well. It's hard. The philosophy of it, quite frankly, I think I'm very good at fundamental economics, like in the world. Yeah. But the theory of economics.
Explain the exchange rate, euro to dollar.
I don't want to do that. It's bringing up things that are not comfortable for me. I got a D and I took the D and did not help me. I did not.
Did you have to take it again?
I don't want to talk about it, John. I want to move on. But Sam, I think it's interesting. It seems like you've done a lot in like a really short amount of time. All the things that you were saying. Like,
how old are you now?
I just turned 28 in June.
Wow.
So I'm 28.
I mean, it seems like everything you were doing, like almost immediately, there was like something else to be doing, right? Like you were moving forward probably almost as you got there. Is that?
Yeah, I spent 6 years in Dallas ISD, but I think people just kept asking me, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And they just presented a door, and I've always been somebody that just says yes. And I don't think much about, "Hey, am I going to be able to do this?" I just kind of think, "Okay, I'll figure out a way to do it, and I'll try my best." And so when they asked me to be assistant principal, I said, sure. Principal, I said, sure. And then when somebody talked about Congress, I thought, my first thought was no, like, why would I ever want to do this? And then I thought about it and I said, hey, I think there's a really big opportunity here. I think in this district specifically and in North Texas, in DFW, there's a lot of people that are in the business community that really are upset at politics today. And they're particularly upset about how high the temperature is and how little is getting done. And so how do we like reset that and move from like the extremes back to the center? And really, I think it's as simple as making sure there's a candidate on the ballot that represents that center. And in so many races across the country, there isn't a centrist candidate. And so I'm hoping to be that centrist candidate for North Texas.
When I think about Sam and his career so far, I think about the book written by David Alberstam called Education of a Coach, which was about Bill Belichick. And there's a great quote by Belichick where he says, the more you can do, the more you can do. And I use that quote frequently when I'm talking to young people about like trying to figure out how they're managing their careers and their lives. I just tell them like it's reassurance that, hey, if you prove that you can do more, people are going to give you more. I think you've demonstrated that for 6 years so far, if not longer.
Well, thank you for that. I don't really have like a prescribed plan or anything. I just really believe in doing stuff that challenges you. And I think you grow a lot when you're in a challenging situation. And so I just have found that saying yes usually results in some more challenging situations.
When has it not worked out for you?
I think that it hasn't worked out for me in every single one of those positions at some point in time. Like I've failed in every position multiple times. But I think that the most important thing is kind of bouncing back. And I know that's cliche, but you learn so much more when you fail.
Yes.
I failed so many times as a principal. I remember coming up with great ideas and trying to, retool my school without talking to any of my, fellow teachers. And I came in guns blazing and flopped, right? What I learned from that, well, the next time I wanted to roll an initiative, I went and talked to everybody 15 times. I went around to different teams. I made sure to get everyone's buy-in, and then it worked, right? And so like those are kind of lessons. And I think in any career you learn that. But you learn more from failure than you do from success.
No doubt about it. That comes up a lot in my new career, but I think really it sounds like a lot of inertia for you, right? Like you're moving forward always, right? Not looking around. You're constantly moving forward with these things. And I think the boldness to take on some of the things that they've asked you to do without thinking about it too much is quite frankly, why you're doing this. And I can't help but think win or lose, because we like to talk about winning and losing in competition and scoreboards. Yeah. Just you running on the ideas that you're saying is winning. I know that that's not going to be what you're out for, but it's winning the way you're talking. And I think that's where the win is, people hearing the way that you're saying. People could learn a lot. I'd like to be one of your students for a day. Is that, like the idea, I feel like that maybe that's today, quite frankly, because
maybe you can learn the definition of inertia.
I do know what that is. That's why I use the word. Yeah. Well, I know the fundamental principle of it. It's moving forward. It's a scientific term, Jon.
We're going to agree to disagree on that definition.
Okay. We can.
That might be the definition of forward momentum.
Okay, that's right. That's how I'm using it. But maybe I don't know the Webster's version, but forward momentum of
it's a good segue back to science fairs.
Right.
Full circle.
He's the idea guy. I still got ideas left. I have some time left.
Okay.
But I do. Good news for me is I do have that. My little brother, who I mentioned, right?
Yeah.
So he probably has some science fairs, so I can get involved with that. So you mentioned sports. I can't help it. Always comes up in every episode. What did you do? What did you play?
Yeah, I played soccer, basketball, and baseball. And I probably spent the most amount of time playing baseball. I can't tell you how many Subway sandwiches combo deals I ate growing up.
But what'd you play in soccer?
So this
is a really good fullback right here.
All right. So I played center back in soccer. And I never scored a goal with my feet. I would always use my head.
Is
I
center
scored
back
a few goals.
Fullback?
Well, it's like center defense.
Center defense. Yeah, it's kind of the most.
You only go up on corner kicks.
The Bowie Blazers defense was never scoring.
Jon is trying to explain to you in case you didn't know that they would, because it was a large team sport, they would bury me in the position. It's kind of like right field in baseball.
Yes.
Yeah. You
Fullback,
put him out
third
there
grade,
and-
that's fullback. He can't hurt us.
We'll hold our breath that one time they hit a pop fly.
Right. That's me. Thank you for those of you. But anyway, it's funny because you made mention of you learn more from failure. And I think in sports, right, we say that a lot. I remember coaches trying to say it's okay, we had a great season. Yeah. But you're right, the self-reflection. So you're probably moving at a fast pace right now. Are you taking time in the journey towards where you're trying to get to, right, with this current initiative to do self-reflection?
Yeah, I think everybody could do more self-reflection. I mean, I think that's something that I am working on doing more of. I think you can build stuff into your routine that gives you time to think. I think for me right now, that's probably running and playing golf, just because you're doing something totally different. And at times during it, your mind is completely clear. Yeah. You're not thinking about anything else. And typically when you're thinking about nothing else, you start to actually reflect and center yourself in the moment. So that's kind of where I found a little bit of peace recently.
You played golf with him?
I haven't been able to yet, but I understand you're a good golfer.
I'm okay. I'd say I'm a decent golfer, like a 9 handicap.
I thought you shoot in the 70s or 80s.
Well, isn't it like a 9 handicap? I can shoot 79.
That's like me.
Yeah, depends on the course.
I saw you shoot 95 with the old heart.
That's right. But let's be clear. I mean, there's a lot of walking that day.
That's right.
I'm taking a couple weeks off if you want to know, mental weeks, and right now.
I also think it's important to be honest about your handicap, right? Yeah. I could come on here and say I'm a 4.
We can go look it up.
Yeah, you can go to US GHIN, you can go to the GYN app.
I'm a 15.1 today, and I'm
18-0.
I know. We're getting not
happy about it. Mine.
There's work to do. We should play the three of us. But it's funny. Golf is interesting, right? I told somebody the other day that there's a lot of decision points in golf, right? That's what I love about one of the things I love. I mean, we love the social aspect of it. We talk about spending 4 hours with somebody, or if we're walking faster, John, 4 hours. Like
I love grinding on somebody.
Right. 4 hours, you're on 3 holes behind John. Yeah. But the decision making, management within yourself concept. Yeah. And I think you're kind of really extending yourself, right? I think a lot of people would say, wow, 28 running for Congress. Are you getting a lot of that?
Yeah. I think what I get most is people either say that's really cool, or they say you have no experience and you have no business being in Congress, right? Like you got to go do something first. And I always kind of pause when somebody says that. And I kind of think back and I say, well, thank you for sharing. And I appreciate you talking about it. And I did run a big high school in Texas, and I led it to its first A rating, which is the highest ranking in the Texas Education Agency, and it was really successful. And I also kind of mentioned to people that I don't think being in Congress is actually that hard.
We overrate these jobs. We overrate so much.
Jobs. Yeah, and here's the thing about members of Congress, right? 98% of them just vote their party line, and they don't really have to do much thinking. They have a leader on each side that says you're going to vote yes or no. Right. And then they show up and they vote that way. And if you don't make any noise and you go to your fundraising dinners and you toe the line, you probably get reelected like 99% of the time. And that's what most of these people do. Hard jobs in America are teaching high school in a understaffed high school in Dallas ISD without air conditioning in August because school went back this week, right? Yeah. A tough job is working, 2 jobs and then doing Uber Eats on your way home because you're trying to figure out a way to pay for your son or daughter's, sports equipment or new bat to play baseball. Yeah. Those are hard jobs and those are hard livings. And I don't think that, the members of Congress are working that hard. And I don't think that we need to have 30 years of experience to get in there. I actually think that, Congress, when it was invented, right, this idea of being the lower house in the US government is that it's supposed to be a diverse group and a diverse representation of America. People from all backgrounds, people from all ages, people from all walks of life, professions. And right now that's not the case. If you look at Congress, there is a certain age and there's a certain background. And I think we need more people that are a little bit different to better represent everybody.
To connect with today's guest, Sam Eppler, follow him on Instagram at Sam for Texas.
And to learn more about Sam Eppler for Congress, you can check out their website, sameppler.com.
So Sam, let's assume you win in November. What do you want to do starting in January?
Yeah, so I have ideas. And my favorite actually is something that I thought of when I was teaching in the classroom. And I don't know how many people know this, but every teacher in America gets a tax credit every year. They get $250 back on their taxes in April, and it's a supply credit. And the thinking is that teachers spend a lot of money outside of, whatever school resources are or aren't, and they buy school supplies and they buy stuff for their students. And so they should get reimbursed for that. Well, I remember laughing my first year teaching because I didn't know this existed. I did my taxes. And then I started tallying up all the money that I actually spent on my classroom and my students. And I was like, $250.
Then cover it.
It's a joke. And I laughed. But then when I became a principal, I was upset because I actually got to sign all the paychecks of all my teachers, right? Not just the ones that were their first, second, or third year, but the 30-year veteran educators that make very little money. And I know, because I signed those paychecks, how much they spent on their classrooms, because I also didn't sign off on those classroom purchases. And then that made me upset. And I thought, wow, we really are undervaluing one of the most important pillars in any community in America, right? Rural, urban.
For sure.
Our schools are so important, right? Like 94% of Texans go to public schools, right? I went to public schools. I'm a proud product of public schools.
Me too.
And so I also heard at the time that electric vehicles and Teslas were getting a tax credit. And I looked up that tax credit, and if you buy a Tesla, you get $7,500 back on your taxes in April. And I thought, $7,500 back for an inanimate object for a Tesla? Was like, hell, if a Tesla can get a tax credit for $7,500, why can't a teacher? And we have a shortage of teachers in this country. There are zip codes all across Dallas where there's no biology teachers. And to me, that's offensive, and that's a problem. And it affects all of us, because if there's a classroom out there that doesn't have a biology teacher, there could be a student in that classroom with the cure for cancer in their head, but they're never going to get to a place where they can actually learn and go to university and deliver that cure through humanity, because they don't have a teacher. And so what the government should be doing is filling those holes in our community. And so I thought, hey, let's give that same tax credit to teachers, just copy paste it from the electrical vehicle subsidy, and bump up the $250. And I guarantee you, we will have far less shortages in all classrooms, not just in North Texas, but across the state. And they're everywhere.
What strikes me, John, it would have really helped me, because I feel like for some reason, John probably got more stickers. That's what we used to get. Like when you were doing a good job on your paper, teacher would write in red pen a check mark, just a little more encouragement. I felt like they were running out of like stickers and stuff, or at least I wasn't getting enough.
Yeah.
Probably because I wasn't doing good enough. But no, honestly, I've actually talked to teachers about that. And it's come up recently that like they want to do a really good job in their classrooms, make it a great environment to learn it. And you're giving them $250. That seems bananas.
And have you looked up the price of pizza lately? Like it's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
That covers one pizza party in September.
Yeah,
there's 9 more months of school.
That seems like a great idea.
And I got to add one thing to that. I also would add it, and I would say that police officers should also get that tax credit. And, as a principal, I worked closely with the police every day. And, you can look up what political party I am, but I'm really proud of that position. And I think that, when you look at what makes communities safe and great, it starts with having solid public servants in all of those frontline positions: firefighters, police officers, teachers, nurses. So that tax credit should be for all of them. And when you look at places like Dallas, right, when you look at these, suburbs around Dallas, we need the best candidates, serving to make our communities safe. And so how do you do that? Well, going back to economics, if you want better, you got to pay better. And so that tax credit would also incentivize better candidates and higher quality officers. And it would also reward the very brave individuals that are serving in our communities on the front lines, like, police and fire.
I want to go back to the front lines though. Explain or tell your story of failing the campus security.
Oh my gosh.
And then what happened after that?
Yeah, this is a great story. So it's actually results from a very sad story. So I was a principal in the state of Texas after Uvalde, the horrific shooting that took the lives of 20 something students and staff members at the elementary school in Uvalde. And what happened after that is the leadership in the Texas state government, the governor, passed a series of bills to harden our schools. And so one of those bills was basically to say that every school had to be locked down and secure, and every door had to be locked. Nobody should be able to infiltrate our schools. And to check that, he sent out the Texas Rangers and the Marshals to go and try to break in to every school in the 2022-23 school year. And the idea was that if they were able to gain entry and they dressed undercover, they weren't wearing badges, and they would jiggle your doors and they would try to break into your school during the day. And then if they were successfully able to do that, they would then show up to the principal and hand them a paper, give them a fine, and say, you failed your school shooter audit check. And I was the principal of an innovative choice school. And actually we Dallas ISD rented space at Dallas College, our local community college. And so we had a wing of that college where we bused students to, and we had classes and a cafeteria, all that stuff. But it wasn't our facility. And if you think about colleges and universities and community colleges, they have sliding glass doors, and it's a community space. People can come in and out. And so I'll never forget this. I was standing there talking to a parent, and this, big guy came up to me in street clothes, and he just said, "Are you the principal?" And I said, "Whoa, I'm talking to this parent. Just give me 1 second." And he said, No, are you the principal? And I was like, "Oh, okay." I said, "Yes, I am. Hi, I'm Sam. What can I do for you?" And he shoves a piece of paper in my face, and he said, if I was a school shooter, you'd be dead. You failed your school shooter audit from the state of Texas. I was able to gain entry to your school, and if I had an AR-15, I would have killed everybody. And I just remember being like, wow, this is our response as a state, right? They're giving us $6 and something cents per student to pay for police and security. That's how low the amount is. And instead of raising that, instead of trying to go hire more police officers for our school, because to me that would at least be a smart, common sense solution. Instead of trying to get our teachers to learn more about how to protect their school, because that's what they're doing. We had to pay a fine. I got in a lot of trouble, even though I couldn't secure my school because the doors remain unlocked. But then I had to have all the teachers come to a training after school. And it was a what to do in a school shooter situation. And so imagine this. Imagine you are a teacher. You've worked 5 days that week. It's Friday. You have been, working super hard trying to get grammar and English and science, whatever your subject is. And your principal says, "Hey, you have to come for a training at 4:00 on a Friday." And we all filed into this room. And there was a guy at the front. He was a former Army Ranger, great guy, but this was his job. He had to go to the schools that failed the audits. And he started it off, and he started pounding his, fist on the table. And he did it softer, louder, louder, louder. And he said, "That's a 22. That's 30-06. That's a 12 gauge. That's a 5.56 round." And he said, "This is what you might hear in a school shooting. And you need to know the caliber of bullet because it's going to impact where you position yourself in the classroom. Everyone needs to lay against that wall so you're perfectly 90 degrees parallel or horizontal, perpendicular to that door, so you'd have less of a chance of a bullet impacting you. And then the way that you lay, you should do it in a way that your vital organs are more covered, right?
Wow.
This is what you should keep in your classroom to stop the bleed, right? You should stock extra tampons and pads because they have absorbent properties that you could put into a gaping chest wound. And my teachers had to listen to that for 2 hours. And that was our state's response to Uvalde. And so these are the kind of things that I think about when I'm running for office and how I would vote in the future. And I think it's an example of we need common sense solutions to these problems, not what we've been given, because we shouldn't be putting that on our teachers.
Pretty intense.
I just got to say, what's going through my mind is, you're a young guy.
Yeah.
And I think, look at our world, and I see where leaders of businesses and other things are at a much younger age than I think what I perceived somebody had qualified to be successful, whatever that meant to me. And then I hear what you say and how you think about it and think, first of all, why not you? Second of all, the rest of your peer group should be, celebrating you for leading the way that you are. And by that, I mean just the desire to sort of think about it differently. And because you're thinking about it differently, real change, right? It sounds like that's what you want to do, is fix this.
Yeah. And I think also I do have to celebrate. I think a lot of people my age are really involved in getting very active in the community. I remember, I think I played in one of Jon's company golf tournaments, and I met tons of young people that were doing tons of different things all across the city. Because, Jon's famous for connecting people from all different parts of the city. And so I'm I think it goes back to this overall theme where we can be excited about the future, we can be hopeful about the future, or we can be pessimistic and fearful about the future. And I think there's a lot of people out there today that are talking about, oh, the next generation is going to ruin us, or they haven't learned, or, this is going to be terrible and doom and gloom. And if you go back 20 years in your history textbook, right, each generation and each moment, people said that about the previous generation. They said it about, the millennials, and they said it about, they probably even said it about the greatest generation. The Gilded generation probably looked at the greatest generation and said, oh, these people have no idea what's in store for them. And then what they do? They won World War II.
Yeah.
Right. So
they didn't say that about Generation X.
What did they say?
Glass chewers.
Glass chewers. Thank you for the education. I have said what I feel like it's struggling, because there's a lot of young people I work around every day, and I lean into that. I love to be. In fact, right before I came here, spent some time with a couple young guys, and I agree with you. I think the struggle is I challenge my peer group to say, get back to the office, get back in front of people. Because with the pandemic, we got away from that physically. Like we're way more Zoom meetings. People are less accessible. And I had a conversation this morning. There's a difference between having time and making time. So, I think there's a balance. Your generation leaning and saying we want to do these things, and having people like Jon being accessible to give apprenticeship, mentorship. And I try to do that too. And I think, I think it happens at every level. So I think it's awesome, your ideas. Yeah. What I want to ask you is, with everything you have going on, I can only imagine what it must be like. Yeah. You probably thought about different things when you were a principal and all the things that go. And by the way, hard job, way more to your point, like being a CEO. But what keeps you up right now at night? Like you put your head on the pillow, maybe you can't fall asleep. What's on your mind?
Truthfully, right now it's fundraising. This is another thing on top of term limits for politicians and banning individual stock trading, because I don't think you should be in Congress and trading on confidential private information that you hear in your agriculture meeting. Right. If you're a representative from Florida, should you really be trading Forex and buying options, either put or call? Like, should you be buying options on soybeans in Iowa? Like, doesn't make sense, right? That we should stop that. But what keeps me up at night is campaign finance, right? Like, I have to raise probably another few $1 million to win this election. We've raised about $1 million, and that sounds like a lot of money, but it is very expensive to run for office because paid media is very expensive. And the only way you win is if you get your name out there and you get your message out there, and you do that through the media. And so right now we got 80 days to go, and we're trying to get that gap closed to make sure we have the resources to compete on election day.
I was referring to Jon. We were talking the other night. We bumped into each other about this very thing. And maybe it's why I struggle myself with political conversations. I was joking, as I often do, that in 8th grade, when I ran for student council, there was a limit on how many poster boards you could have and how much candy. It was still a popular vote.
Same.
Right?
I lost my student council election, by the way.
I won. Thanks, Jon, for that. Thanks for the support.
You had my endorsement. That carried.
I know. I know how to work for sure. I knew how to work the system to get the people, the right constituents. But it was a pretty good idea to limit the poster boards. It ended up still being a popular vote. But I agree with you. I hope for people that are seeing, maybe they'll share your message. Yeah. Like at a minimum, pay attention to doing it this way. Just having a real message, not because media is expensive. I have a background in it, and it's hard.
Yeah. And
what's not hard?
No, I said it is hard.
What's not hard?
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I think you're going to play at the highest level. It's hard.
Yeah,
let's just accept that. Everybody in the world.
Yeah.
You want to do something at a high level, it's hard.
Fair, but the media, mass media. Well, let's be clear. Fair enough. It's hard. There are other ways to do it.
Yeah, I think it's also about changing incentives, right? And I think, like, for example, me and my opponent, you can look her up, but I've received far more individual contributions from real human beings.
Stan Altshuler.
Yeah.
Right, $250.
His dad,
Yeah.
that we established is half Jewish, which makes John a quarter Jewish.
Fair, good. Thank you for that.
But yes, he made a very generous contribution. But at the same time, right, when you're a member of Congress, regardless of your political party, you will have your coffers filled without even asking, because regardless of what you do, you represent 1/435th of Pax Americana. You represent the free world and trillions of dollars. And so, yes, it's worth it for every single Fortune 500 company to probably give you a max $5,000 donation. And do the math. 500 Fortune 500 companies, they're giving out the $5,000 to every member of Congress, right? That's $2.5 million.
Right.
That's a lot of money.
So I have a hard and fast rule. I think I mentioned to you or to John that I've never made a single contribution to a political candidate ever. I said I would never do that. And then this week I got asked to participate in a PAC, and then I had to ask somebody, like, I'm at a crossroads. Yeah. Isn't it the same? Right. And then there was a lot of opinions. It wasn't John that I asked. I give to the causes, and if the politician supports that cause, great. What I give is time, influence. That's how I feel I'm best.
Yeah.
It's not because I don't have $50 or $100. I have like 51, but I love that.
I think politics happens to you if that's the philosophy. And if you want to be part of the process, it costs money. You have to do this. Like, Prior Blackwell taught me this when I was at Trammell Crow Company. I was 22 years old. He was 33. And he was very involved civically from a fundraising and a donation standpoint. He made it clear to me that, this is what you do.
Yeah.
So I just feel like it's the way I was brought up professionally. And I'm not kidding myself that I'm any kind of kingmaker. I'm not. But I still have cell phone numbers and ability to access people. And I have a way to bounce ideas off people. And I get to share my feelings and my direct viewpoint to people like Sam. And you have to involve yourself in the process.
Is that as a function of giving a donation to do? Okay.
Otherwise, you don't have a seat. You're just not in the room.
Like, you're not listening if you're not getting.
You're not listening. You just don't get around them.
So I listen, but I think back to John's point about, this is the highest level, and it's going to be hard, but also the highest level in the rules of the game, at least right now. If you don't like the game, win and change the game, rewrite the rules. But right now, if you want to win, you need to raise money.
Yeah.
And so, I failed early on in the campaign. I thought that, just by doing this and being there and talking about policy and good ideas would get it done. It didn't, right? I missed a fundraising deadline where I didn't raise that much money. And I had to look in the mirror and said, if you want to get something done and if you want to win, you got to put in the time and you got to pick up the phone and you got to do the uncomfortable thing. And it is uncomfortable asking for money. But it's also a valuable skill, because you have to really figure out yourself, is what you're saying important enough, and do you believe it enough for you to actually go out there and get it? And so I really had to think to myself, do I really believe in this? And I do. And so when you approach it with that mindset, you're a lot more successful. Every
time I talk to Colin Arad, every time I talk to Seth Moulton's a congressman in Massachusetts, and Arad's a Dallas guy.
Sure.
They always ask for money, and it's never like inappropriate. It's never, it's just like, hey, they have to ask for money.
Well, no, I mean, I know Craig Goldman. I know other politicians who have done it. So I get it's part of the game. And we'll talk more about it. I reserve the right to change my mind, number one, on what I said.
Yeah.
As a result of meeting you, it's been in my head. I'll just be honest. I might give you, we'll get to that. But anyways, I think what you've shared so much valuable thought around the logistics and my ideas about it, and and how the process works for me. Maybe I need to rethink that for sure.
In terms of process, though, my feeling from, again, being taught this by Seth Moulton, is that to a political candidate, early dollars donated are the most valuable dollars. And I feel like, as a donor who doesn't want to give tons of money, if I find a guy like Sam early in the process, I try to contribute immediately without being asked at a reasonable level. And then I feel like you kind of bypass having to give at higher levels later. And the reality is that the higher levels later aren't quite as valuable, because come October, you're just throwing money into a machine where everybody's just throwing media dollars, it's harder to
That's a
really
good
it's
point.
harder to stand out. But if you find a politician early, those early dollars are extremely valuable to the politician.
Yeah, and they want
And higher impact.
Well, yeah, dollars because you'll get communicating
Yeah.
and they'll get you working for them too.
Yeah.
So it's not just the money; it's the overall.
It's 100% correct.
What are you reading right now?
So I've gotten really into a historical fiction time period when the British Royal Navy was like the ultimate force of exploration and adventure in the world. So I'm actually reading the Patrick O'Brien series, Master and Commander, which is about Aubrey and Maturin. He was a post captain in the
What years?
Royal Navy. In the Napoleonic Wars. And so I've just been really
Tell him
into
what
it.
years those are. The
Napoleonic Wars?
Don likes to teach me while we're here.
Early 19th century.
I know.
Okay.
I do know.
There was a big movie about Napoleon's
I know.
land.
I saw that. I could watch because I could
campaign.
watch it. I didn't have to read it.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, sure,
Yeah, I know.
sure.
I could
Yeah,
see
right,
it. I could see it.
But truly, like I consume so much news. I mean, I read The Economist cover to cover every
Yeah.
week. I mean, you wake up and you read the opinion section, Wall Street Journal, New York Times. I read them all. But I just like at the end of the day to read something different, something that transports you and makes you think about the world. Because fascinating, 200 years ago, these great wooden ships displaced, a few hundred tons in the water,
Yeah.
but they held 800 men that would then self-sustain and sail.
how
all
long could
across the
Scott
world.
have made it on a wooden ship?
What do you think? Based, you just met me. You think how long?
10 days?
You wonder my feeling.
It depends on your role.
I know.
I don't think I could have made it on a
him the
ship
hardest
down
role.
in the very
Why? Why?
Give him the hardest role. How long does he last?
as probably the guy in the very bottom where it's your hammock is 16 inches from the next guy. I wouldn't even give myself more than 2 weeks, but it shows what kind of a different time
I
people
feel
lived
like I
in
have other-
and their mindset,
Right.
and the ability that they
Yeah.
were able to
What they can tolerate.
what they could tolerate.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I always like learning about.
I'm soft, is what he's trying to say. I'm pretty soft. I'm soft. It's okay though. But I expect really big things. I'm going to really enjoy building a friendship with you, supporting you as a friend.
Yeah.
First and most importantly, that.
Maybe playing some golf.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you ride or walk?
We have an opening. August 29th.
30th. Check your
I
calendar.
don't sound.
Check your calendar.
Okay.
Check
We have
your
an
calendar.
opening. You can offer him the opening.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
I play better when I walk.
Okay, I like to play
the
better when I
problem
walk
is
too.
We'll walk, he can
it's
ride.
August and it's like
We'll walk. He can ride.
Yeah.
we got to start really
Okay.
early if we're going to walk.
So, and then just lastly, I think you're going to do amazing things, win or lose. I cannot wait to watch. I'll be here, and I think John will. I just completely thank you for this introduction.
You're welcome.
Wow. That's what I say to you. And just as you think about 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, you look back, the word legacy, what do you see for Sam? What's the legacy?
I just want to be known for doing the right thing and being the person that spoke up. I remember, earlier in this conversation, I talked about anyone can go to Congress and just vote the party line. I'd like to be remembered as the person that thinks and votes against his party a lot, because I want to approach each bill with this idea that if that could help somebody in my community more than it would negatively impact somebody in my community, then that bill should be passed. It shouldn't matter about who you are or where you came from, what flag you're flying, Republican or Democrat. I just want to be known for the guy that said, hey, if you bring me a good idea and if that makes sense and there's some logic behind it, I'll support you. I won't ask you, are you a Republican or Democrat? I just want to know why you're doing it, and I'm with you 100%. So that's what I'd like to be known for.
It's good.
I mean, wow. Again, so great to meet you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks,
you.
Sam. I need a countdown.
You count down.
Yes.
He likes to
I love countdown. Give me a countdown.
What do you like it? 5, 4? All right, here we go. Smile energy. 3, 2, 1.